Welcome to I Heart Geek.
And here we are with another episode of I Heart Geek. I don't do it the same way Dub does, so I hope everybody doesn't mind that. But here we are, another episode of I Heart Geek, and we're going to talk about episode 2 of She-Hulk. Woo! I am your host, the ever obnoxious Courtney, and with me today is Blythe and Kevin and Tyler. Are you guys ready to talk about episode 2 of the
Yes, ma'am.
Big green mean law-abiding machine? I got that. That was better in my head. That's all I have to say about that.
That's good.
So,
It worked.
All right, let's go around the room. Blythe, how are you doing today?
Doing good. I've watched
Yay.
this episode a number of times for reasons. But yeah, I'm ready to talk about it and unload some stuff that we got.
Sounds kind of ominous. I'm gonna unload some stuff. No, it's gonna get better. Tyler, how are you?
Doing good. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this episode as much as I did the first episode. I'm glad the CGI and everything got way better. Got some things to talk about.
We do. And Kevin with his fancy new background. How are we now?
Woo, I finally got something nice here. No, great show. I watch it once by myself, once with my daughter. I will tell you, my daughter's new favorite superhero is no longer Miss Marvel. It is now She-Hulk, and she likes She-Hulk so much more. She was running around. She got in trouble because she picked up something and threw it like she was throwing a door. Daddy, I'm She-Hulk. I'm like, River, you can't throw things. So it was good.
That's
Good
awesome.
I love it. That makes me happy. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I think let's start off with talking about the elephant in the room. That's the CGI. Because there's been a lot of there's been a lot of back and forth, listeners, between
Varying
us,
opinion.
ourselves, very opinion, and others on the I Heart Geek show. And I know there's some back and forth that's been going all over on the internet about the She-Hulk. Personally, it doesn't bother me. Is it the greatest? Absolutely not. But it doesn't bother me. But I know that especially the boys with me today have some thoughts about it. So let's go ahead and give it a chat, and then we'll move on to the actual meat of the episode. Boys, CGI for you. Let's talk. Kevin, you first.
Okay, here's the deal. It didn't bother me until somebody pointed it out, and then it irritated me to no end. Listen, I can watch stuff and just have a great time with it. It's fun for me. I can just shut my brain off a little bit and watch it. But as soon as somebody critiques something, and then it becomes extremely obvious. It was more obvious in the second episode. The way her mouth was moving, the way I don't quite understand, because Hulk looks great still, but it is janky. Janky is the wrong word for it. It looks like a video game graphics in the real world. It doesn't take me out of it, but it's definitely noticeable.
It's like when your friend comes over and is like, "Oh, you got a pixel out on your TV," and then that's all you can see. It's just that one pixel out.
That's a perfect analogy.
It's not. I'm with you, Courtney. I don't see the anything wrong with it. It's TV. See, it's high end TV CGI. It's not like we're watching a episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and we're getting that type of CGI. It's Disney Plus level CGI. I was never expecting Thanos level CGI. Like, I wasn't expecting to see every little blemish on her face, and I think that may be the part of the issue that some people have with it, is that she's really smooth. The color palette is just like a really just like not flat, but just like just a straight green. And it's not like Hulk where he's got like stubble on his chin, and then they put a little gray in the beard. They give him like layers and textures. It's a lot of textures with regular Hulk that they gave with him that they don't necessarily give to her. And I think that's why Hulk just looks better. That, and that they've been producing the Hulk CGI for how many years now?
Yeah,
how many years has Ruffalo been they have those models, right? So
Yeah.
I assume it's like, I mean, I'm not a VFX guy, but I assume that once you have the models, you just kind of build and keep going off of what you have, and you don't start from scratch every
Yeah.
time. Which this is the first time they've created her character for.
One thing I will say, just because I'm full of sass as usual, is I did see somebody make a comment. I don't know if it was in our group, so if it's one of our guys, sorry, or if it's somebody on the internet. This is what I saw. Somebody goes, "It looks like CGI from the '70s." I would like to point out, Young Sprouts, that in the '70s we painted Lou Ferrigno green and called him the Hulk. That was the Hulk in the '70s.
Well,
Definitely not.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about the CGI. Okay, let me get on my soapbox for a second. We all like Star Wars, right? When Star Wars first came out, there's black lines around every single spaceship. Okay, listen, we're able to turn our brains off and actually just watch something and enjoy it. But what happens is people look for stuff to be upset about, and that's what this is.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the greatest? No. Is it not good? Yes. But if that's all you have to complain about, is it really that big of a deal?
Exactly. Tyler, what are your thoughts on the CGI? And then we'll start busting into the episode.
It was great.
No, zero qualms with it whatsoever.
I'm fine. It's good.
No, see, for me, it was. I told you guys, it was when she walked into the bar. There was like a fluidity about the motion and everything. It looked very robotic, and as she comes in, she wasn't blending in with the real world. And like you said, there's probably some texturing that's missing and whatnot. It was very noticeable this time around.
Yeah.
I bought my son a texture package on Minecraft. Maybe I can get them one. And
there you go. There you go. We'll
do my part.
For you, Disney Plus,
but
don't worry.
Give a DLC.
Yeah, see, but throughout the whole episode, it wasn't as noticeable in a lot of other areas. It was just like it's like one block, like all the bar scene is where I noticed it most on this one. The last episode, it was during the jungle fight where I noticed. There's some issues with the way they animate her mouth and stuff, but it is what it is. The thing about, and I get it, Marvel has set a bar. And if they're not hitting those standards that people expect, I get it. You're going to be disappointed. So, people could say, but just the hatred put towards it. Good God. I mean, come on. The prequels to Star Wars, the CGI was terrible in a lot of spots, but people love the prequels,
Yeah.
If the overall story, if everything I'm watching, just terrible, the effects are going to be part of my argument of why this whole thing just sucks, But if that's the only thing I can really pick out of it, and everything else is solid, I can overlook it, and it's still a fun time.
Well, you mentioned the bar scene, so let's take that as our segue to start talking about the episode. So we get our recap at the beginning about previously that happened on She-Hulk Attorney at Law, which now is listed as She-Hulk Attorney for Hire because of what happens in the bar scene. So let's go into it. We have this bar scene, which has there's a lot in it, actually, if you think about it. It's such a short scene. There's the obvious thing, but then there's also, she gets fired, but there's also, there's another joke about her metabolism. She gets named She-Hulk, and she does not like that at all. It's like, I hope that doesn't stick. Yep. But the big thing is she gets fired. So it presses her into the next phase, which we knew was coming because we knew who was in the courtroom in the previous scene. Yep. So thoughts on her getting fired? We know Tyler was like, CJ's a little off in that, but there were some pretty funny moments in there that I thought. Flies, what do you think?
I think it's the whole thing of them not, there's been a thing in this where they don't get to name themselves. Hulk mentions it. He's Smart Hulk. She-Hulk. And they're not choosing their names. And this is a sentiment that kind of, if you think about it, goes back through all the heroes. None of them seem to have been able to name themselves. Even if you think back to the Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like way back when he first introduced himself, he wanted to be called the Human Spider.
Mhm.
and then Bruce Campbell was like Spider-Man, and then that became his name. So it's a cool thing that you don't really think about that there. I think that's what's cool about this show, is that they're bringing up things that we as like the geek community would think of, but if you're just a normal person watching these shows, it's not something that you would really think of, but it's something that makes you go, oh, yeah, I can see where that they don't let them choose their names. So yeah, I think that was a good scene.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. I do think it's interesting that she gets fired for being She-Hulk. Even though, of course we knew this was going to happen, and we knew what was coming and where it was going, but she gets fired for being She-Hulk. I personally enjoyed the fact that she was drinking heavily as She-Hulk and it wasn't affecting her. And then when her old boss tells her, be normal, Jen, she's completely hammered in 0.2 seconds.
Yeah.
That was amusing for me. So, Tyler, what were your thoughts on the bar scene besides the CGI debacle?
Well, see, the CGI, no. When she like reverted back down to Jen, I thought that was hilarious, just because of the fact that he was like, I can't talk to you like this. I'm too intimidated. Like, this dude is just feeling like about this big, trying to tell her something very important, And of course she clobbered him too. And of course, we mentioned it, brought that up last week, that whole courtroom fight looked a little too staged. Did not like the way it felt. And there you go. They set something up, to get her fired. He wanted to bring her in. That wasn't just coincidence. And just the fact that, we got all the little quips of her just being drunk trying to talk to that dude. And then her friend, the other lawyer in her old office, when he came up, said that line.
That was pretty heavy.
It was.
Wow. I'm gonna go talk to it. Whoa, bro.
Yeah.
But it's a little on the nose there, but I think they made their point, because he's like that in the comics. So I think they made their point with him.
He is like that in the comics. Yeah.
Sure.
But no, we kind of saw that coming. She got fired.
Yep, she got fired. Kevin, any thoughts on that bar scene?
I mean, we hit it all. I do want to speak on what Blythe said about tropes. That's what's going to be fun about this show. And moving forward, now that we have superheroes in the real world, they're actually like superheroes. And so you have the comics, you have the tropes about not being able to name yourself, you have the conversations like in the future at the dinner table. Like, I love that these are actually happening now, because that's what will really happen. I mean, different show, but that's kind of why The Boys is such a cool show, because like, how would superheroes actually, like, what would the conversations actually be like? And we're kind of seeing that now with this show, which is fleshing it out more. So I don't want to, but yeah, it's fun so far.
So I want to touch on the job hunting scene, because this has got
everybody does.
It's because it's got a bunch of Easter eggy good stuff in it. So she is sitting in her apartment and looking at the computer, job hunting. I'm going to go to Tyler for this first, because he is our man on the street when it comes to QR codes. The QR code is in this scene.
QR
Tyler,
code alert.
Tell us about the
when
QR
she
code.
is sitting there with her friend, she's on her laptop, she's looking, for a job and all this and that. There is a QR code right there on the screen on her laptop, and it leads you back to, unfortunately, just the same issue we got last week. But there's reasons they pull from that. Everything I could find said that I couldn't scan it with my phone.
Oh no, I scanned it. No, the QR code from last week leads you to her very first appearance in 1980. Her She-Hulk, since Savage She-Hulk number one. This is number one of the Dan Slott run,
2004.
And so
run.
Yes, so
right.
that's we've already established that's where they're pulling a lot of this storyline from. So yeah, it is a She-Hulk number one, but it's not Savage She-Hulk number one.
Right. But yep, like right there on her laptop screen.
So we hypothesized that there was going to be mentions of other characters in the Marvel universe, and we get there are two things that we want to touch about on this, because we've talked about this ad nauseum with each other that we're going to make you listen to. The one thing that I think everybody wants to talk about is the fact that this gives us our first, I don't know if we want to say it's him specifically, but it's pretty obvious that it's
Kevin wants to say it's him specifically.
Kevin,
It's
Kevin,
Wolverine.
There you go.
Wolverine's here.
We're gonna let Kevin do it because he's gonna explode. That's right, Geek Rock Stars. There is a mention on the sidebar of the website that she's looking at that says "man with claws in a bar fight." It's something to that effect, which, as Kevin says, it is
Wolverine.
Oh,
We already did this.
drop the ball. Yeah, you got to do
I
it again.
did.
Oh goodness.
Well,
These boys.
This is what we talked about with the show, right? Like, as soon as they release mutants, well, where are the mutants? Where are they? Well, they've been, a lot of them have been here for a long time. You have your Wolverines, your Sabretooth, Professor Rexes. They are all here. What happens is now, as we're going into the age of mutants, where more mutants are going to start coming out, but the older ones have always been here, and I love that touch.
And while it officially does not call him Wolverine, how many men with claws can get in? I mean,
men with metal claws fights in
men
bar.
with metal claws in a bar fight. How
we
can
literally
be
saw
more,
that in one of the Wolverine.
Right? Do we need a neon sign that says Wolverine? This is pretty much his MO.
That's a good point, Tyler. We've seen him in a bar fight in another movie.
Exactly.
Are they trying to establish that the Fox-verse is canon?
Maybe.
That would be interesting.
He's in bar fights in all of them. So
Yeah.
it's not like out of the realm of reality that Wolverine is in a bar fight.
Why would Wolverine ever be in a bar besides in X-Men 1? In that one circumstance, he would never be there.
Right.
Never.
Right.
Never fights either.
He was just,
Yeah. So the other one that I really loved, because this is something we had discussed, listeners, and we know it had been mentioned periodically on the internet, but it's something we talked about quite a bit. Why is there a giant statue sticking out of the ocean?
Finally.
This is the first time in the MCU that they have finally acknowledged
Thank God.
half a celestial sticking out of the ocean from the Eternals. So while it's a very quick scene of her looking for a job, there's actually a lot of good stuff that they're laying groundworks for.
And right above all that, there's an advertisement for the Iron Man 3. They're about to drop, y'all.
Yes.
Let's get them.
Yes. The shoes.
Add to my
so,
collection.
it's great.
This is the perfect way to release, because everybody's like, why are they talking about it? Why are they talking about it? Just a little ad in the internet, because that's like the most 2022 thing. It's like, nobody really knows. Is it real? Is it really real? But a little thing right there. So I like that.
Well, and it's the little things in this show in general that I mean, I can't remember exactly where it is, but she looks at her phone at one point in time because she's getting a text message from somebody. Her screensaver on her phone is Captain America's posterior.
Yeah.
That's right. Jen Waters has America's butt on her phone, as do many women.
All?
Right, as do most of us. Like, really, Evans's tiny is on everybody's phone. But let's segue into the dinner scene with the family. I love her family. Shout out to cousin Larry Appleton from Perfect Strangers, who is playing her dad.
Yeah.
But I love I love the family, and we've talked about this before because we've talked about this in Miss Marvel. We loved her family in Miss Marvel too. The families in these shows have really been extremely important side characters for these characters' journeys, even if they're just in and out. You know, Mom and Dad and Miss Marvel were really important to the character, and we could say Layla was extremely important. She's his wife, so family has always been something that they seem to be emphasizing quite a bit in these TV shows, which is interesting considering the comment that they make about how superheroes tend to be orphans for some reason.
Yeah, that was funny.
So let's go ahead and talk about the dinner scene because there's some good stuff in there. Blythe, give us the dinner scene.
Sure. So they, like you said, these families are really important in these shows. They're grounding these characters. They make you care more about the character that you're watching if you know there's more at stake than just their physical person. Like they have families and things involved. So that was fun to see. The family's really funny. All the way down to it must have been her like aunt and uncle where they're like to the son, oh, employed and promotion.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah,
there as a superhero.
yeah,
now.
she's sitting there as a superhero. She has a whole, but that's another thing too. They're used to it. The dad even says, we know we have a Hulk in the family. Like they've been through all this before. So to them, they've
already saved the world.
Yeah, they've normalized it in
It
ways.
almost sounded disappointed. Like, oh, we can get something else. Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun to kind of see into her life a little bit there.
Mm-hmm. One line I would like to bring up and ask everybody's thoughts on, and listeners, you too, is when Mom mentions that she met the nice boy in line. His name was Yusuf, and he wants to be a superhero, and so she gave him Jen's number, but he's never heard of her, which makes sense because she's just freshly minted She-Hulk, so that makes sense. So what are we thoughts on this? Because I know Tyler had a little bit of information on that.
Yeah,
she's green. Get it?
There's a possibility they're
Wow.
kind of laying into Yusuf Abbott. He's a bit of a, like, he wasn't a superhero. He just really loved the Avengers and stuff. He was a helper for the Avengers. He doesn't show up a whole lot. But I believe Courtney, you looked into it even further. Does
He's
he
part of
become anything significant?
He's part of 616, and like you say, he helps out and he assists from time to time. And in my reading, I believe he does get mutated at one point in time.
Yeah. Right on.
So maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's not. You never know with Marvel at this point in time.
It may just be a little drop, like deep cut for those.
Yeah,
because you don't see much of them in the comics. I think it's like a one-off or something.
Yeah.
So that takes us into her new job offer she receives from Holden Hollowell, which is the guy that we saw at the end in the courtroom of scene 1. And he gives her a job at GLKNH. I know I get it wrong every time.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about that, with the exception of the H, the first 3 are actual, it's an homage to old Marvel cartoon creators. Comic creators. It's their last names is what it is. So I think that's pretty cool. With the exception of Hollowell, because the H stands for Hollowell, and he's starting his new superhero division, and he wants the She-Hulk to be part of it. And this gives us, as they're walking around for the first time, it gives us her first fourth wall break for this episode, or am I remembering it incorrectly? Oh, it looks like nobody else remembers either.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say that's accurate.
Yeah, I think this is her that's really hard to say, you guys. Fourth wall break of the episode, where she explains that, she didn't want to be the Hulk. She wanted to be Jennifer. And there she is as the Hulk, and her suit is too small, which is fine. And there's a couple of meta things in this scene that I think Kevin picked up on, I think it was Kevin. Kevin, can you give us those meta things?
Well, I
know Tyler.
It was Tyler. Tyler was the one, but the comic book.
That's right. Tyler, can you give it to us?
Room with a library of comic books there.
Mm-hmm.
There's right out of She-Hulk comics. There's a guy that works in the basement, and that's like the research material for the law firm and stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Yeah, and I know there's some people have eyed the comic covers too and pointed out which issues they are. It takes a lot to look. It was a real quick shot, but there was a lot of like armor stuff in there.
Screen Crush has a list, and I just want to shout out to Screen Crush because it is a pretty cool list. He did the work. So
it's like me trying to figure out what those statues were in Moon Knight in that one episode.
It's cool to see that comic books like our research for the comic book world. If like
Mhm.
it's neat to see that.
Yeah.
You know what's cool?
It's very meta.
It is like in Force Awakens, which I mean, I know it's the newer Star Wars, but in Force Awakens, Harrison Ford says, Han Solo says, it's true. All of it's true. And like, that's what I get with like stuff like this, with the comic books and everything. It's like, it's all real now. It's like, you got the statue, you got the bar fight, you got comic books, you got the conversations. It's all real now. There's nothing off the
very
table.
much. So,
Yeah.
And it's cool because we hit another, like, they've leveled up now, and superheroes are celebrities. So Ant-Man's got books and podcasts, and he's got to spot the Ant-Man thing on that website she's looking at.
Yeah.
And then Titania, she's a super influencer.
Yeah,
I
that's
like
right.
that touch.
That was pretty cool. And in the news coverage of what happened in the courtroom, you can see on the bottom they blame it on low blood sugar. Why she did that?
Why she attacked? That's
Yeah.
Why she attacked? That's good. That's good.
But yeah, it's a pretty cool world that we built now.
Yep.
It's Kevin brings up a cool point, kind of making that reference back to the Star Wars thing where the stories are all true. It's confirmed that Marvel exists within this universe. There's like Marvel branded stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
And it kind of harkens back to another movie, Logan. Remember in Logan, X-23 had all the comic books, and she even like they drop on the floor at one time, and Logan sees them, and he's like, all those stories are he says a bad word, but essentially says made up. But that's probably not the case, right? Is that they're just over exaggerations of things that happen. So now we can say Infinity Gauntlet could exist within the Marvel universe as a comic book, but it's just an over exaggeration or a story that's been told from someone who doesn't have all the pieces.
And that really starts with Captain America: First Avenger, because at the very end of it, the little kids are running around
with their Captain America comic book.
The actual Captain America #1 issue where he's punching out Hitler.
Yep.
So I mean, they've kind of laid the groundwork for that the whole time. Before we jump to the Blonsky scene, I want to talk quickly about the guy that brings them the welcome basket, Pug. He actually is a character that is pretty prevalent in the She-Hulk books. He's a former bouncer, and he has a massive crush on Jen.
Yeah.
So there's that. So he's gonna probably play some parts
as
we go along.
And he knows the best place to poo-poo.
Best place to poops.
Best place.
There you go.
Well, hey, that's valuable information in office settings, from what I understand.
Huge.
It is truly valuable information in an office setting.
You know what I thought was funny about when she got hired too was when she's like, the only thing that she had as a negotiation was that her friend could be her paralegal.
Yeah, she wanted
And
Nikki.
He's like, I don't care. Like, why?
What I care.
Now, Nikki is not an actual comic book created character. She's created for the show because in the comic books, her paralegal is a woman named Wheezy or Louisa. Wheezy is actually a golden age superhero. She was known as the Blonde Phantom. So but in the sensational She-Hulk run, Wheezy's in her 40s because she's the same age as Captain America.
Sure.
So, and at one point in time, they switched places, but that's okay. That's a whole storyline we don't need to talk about.
And before we move into the meat of other things we want to talk about, when she's hunting for a job in her living room, just want to point out, if you look closely, there's a bottle of the Velvet Devil wine on the table with a pitchfork.
Oh,
Mephisto
watch is back on.
He's coming. He's the big bad.
I didn't even think of Mephisto. I went to a foreshadow of Daredevil. So y'all are lunatics.
No. That makes no sense. Come on.
No, my theory is completely crazy and outlandish. Y'all are right on the money.
Even though we know Daredevil's
we know what we're
up
doing
at some point in time. Anywho.
And I want to point out that her friend is probably a Skrull. Okay.
Oh, no.
Jeez Louise.
Blonsky's a Skrull. Anyways, we've dropped his name, we being me. Her first client is none other than Emil Blonsky. Abomination! And she goes and visits him in the facility that is created and controlled by the Department of Damage Control.
ODC.
I personally was really excited to see Tim Roth back as Abomination.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think Blythe brought it up. It really kind of solidifies the fact that they are making the Incredible Hulk.
It always was. We're not having this fight. It's always been.
I'm not fighting. I'm not fighting. I'm saying that what they're doing is I think they're really just making it official that yes, this is part of the canon. This is the thing. This is. Calm down, Kevin. I'll get to you. Hold on. Kevin's spazzing out for those of you who are listening and not watching. Okay, Kevin. Proceed.
No,
I don't want you to explode.
I'll fight. No, I was just kidding.
Do it! Fight!
The one thing about the prison scene that kind of irritated me was the bus coming in. Talking about bad CGI.
That was a little off.
Yeah,
That was the literal worst CGI I've seen in a long time.
That was bad.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh, people are going to point that out."
Kevin, it's just the back rooms, man. It's just the back rooms.
The back rooms.
I mean, really, that was all the prison scene had to offer anyway. So, moving on.
That's
it.
So we've had a lot of debate about the 7 pen pals that it keeps mentioning, and it's not. I think you guys are right. I think it's not a throwaway line because he mentions
over
7.
and over again.
Oh, yeah, it is multiple times he mentioned 7. And so, listeners, here are our thoughts on those 7s. I would like to point out that our own Mr. Kevin came up with this before we had seen it anywhere else on the internet. But we can't claim that. So, Kevin, give it to us the 7. What do you think?
Yes. Okay, so they said it multiple times, so it means something, right?
Absolutely.
So I think it's the Thunderbolts. You have a total, so we're looking for 7 people. Well, we've already seen 7 people. We have Baron Zemo, Yelena, Contessa, Ghost, Taskmaster, U.S. Agent, and Abomination would be 7. But being Abomination is already, he has 7 people he's talking to, then it's most likely Red Hulk.
Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah, Thunderbolt Ross. Now, Thunderbolt Ross, we know his real life counterpart is passed away. People are saying it's Winter Soldier. I don't see Winter Soldier as being a Thunderbolt, but you have other people now that have also been involved. So we have Hawkeye, which, remember, he has a bad counterpart. What if he has to join the Thunderbolts?
Yep.
Yeah, the Ronin. What if he has to join the Thunderbolts to clear his name? And that's my thought, is that it's going to be Ronin, Baron Zemo, Yelena, Contessa, Ghost, Taskmaster, U.S. Agent.
In terms of Thunderbolt Ross, what I have heard, and this could actually change or be incorrect, but from what I've heard is everything Marvel said is they will not be recasting Thunderbolt Ross. They're going to kind of like leave that as honoring William Hurt, who played the character. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Red Hulk is off the table, because they could do Red Hulk. You know, it could be a situation where they CGI him into the Red Hulk and they just, because I mean, he doesn't necessarily have to talk at first. He could be full Hulk where there's no cognitions at all and he could just destroy crap. So, I mean, Red Hulk isn't off the table just because William Hurt has passed away and they have said that they will not be recasting.
Well, back to his Red Hulk's comic book origins, he just kind of shows up. You don't find out that he's Thunderbolt Ross for, I don't know, maybe 20 issues, 25 issues in. You don't find out that it even is Thunderbolt Ross. And in comic book years, or comic book time, that's well over a year, because new comic books come out once a month. So no one knew who Red Hulk was for a year after they even showed him. So it could very well be that they do maybe choose another character to fit that, maybe even a character that we haven't seen yet, maybe a character that pops up in the show, like just a military-esque type character, and then eventually down the road that person becomes Red Hulk. It doesn't have to be Thunderbolt Ross. It's like we say all the time, the MCU just they can do what they want to do. They can use the source material and kind of sculpt it the way that it fits the universe. So we very well could see Red Hulk down the line.
And remember, it's MCU too. they could tweak things. They
Yeah.
can add in something.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I mean, we could see Rocket take his place. I mean,
Sure.
who knows?
The
Sure.
raccoon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think you know, I mean, the fact that we have Tim Roth back as Abomination,
Yeah.
and one of the lines that Bruce says later, which we'll mention when we get to that scene, giving us the fact that that Incredible Hulk is in fact part of the canon. It is true. It is real. That means it also opens up the door for Jennifer Connelly to come back, and she can be Red She-Hulk if they wanted to. Even though she is the voice of Peter's suit.
Jennifer Connelly would never come back as Red She-Hulk because Jennifer Connelly's not Betty Banner. Courtney. Liv Tyler is Betty Banner.
Oh, I have the wrong one. I'll be fully honest with you. I don't like either of the Incredible Hulk movies. So they're all just one big blur of green guys
that's fair.
and
Liv
destroying
Tyler
things.
could do it
so
then.
I'm good
Yeah.
with Liv Tyler. I like Liv
Yeah.
Tyler too. So
Liv
that's
Tyler
good.
could definitely come back and reprise her role as
Yep.
Betty.
I'm fine
Or
with
I
either
call
one
her
of
Betty
them.
Banner. But you're
That's
right.
what we're gonna get.
I want Jennifer Connelly.
That's gonna be the closeout of this season.
I'm
Liv
fine with
Tyler's
either one
gonna
of them,
show up
so-
as Red
That
She-Hulk. It's
would-
gonna be a big battle.
That would
That would
blow my
nice.
mind, my friend.
Anyways,
That's
Right
something
after
they
we
could
get-
do too.
Right
We
after
might
the
not-
leader.
Not go down the Red Hulk path and go Red She-Hulk. And we
Mhm.
don't even ever see Red Hulk. They
Well,
could bring back
yeah,
Liv
they could
Tyler and
totally
make
do
her
that.
Red She-Hulk and we don't get a
Yeah.
Red Hulk. Why?
Yeah.
we could do that.
If that
We don't-
happens,
yeah.
you definitely heard it here first.
Right. We're
So-
calling it. We're claiming it. We're claiming it.
Yeah. There you go.
Except I'm not, because I can't remember who played who in either of these Incredible Hulk movies. So
That's
there we
all
go.
A lot of
Anyways,
names.
anyways, moving on to where she ends up calling Bruce to tell him about the job. And I think this scene literally threw all four of us for a loop because it was not what we were expecting at all. So I'm
Nope.
gonna let Tyler take control of this. Tyler, what happens in this scene?
He's talking to her, and you think he's just sitting in his little lab there, and they, he's like, "Oh, I got some things to do." I forget exactly what he said, but and they pan out, and he's on the Sicarian courier ship,
Mm-hmm.
heading out into space. Okay, we're doing this, and clearly
now.
that office was built for him. It's
Yeah.
Hulk size. It's enough
Yep.
room. It's got all his
And
stuff.
it looks
It's got his
like
book. It's got a lot
it
of stuff
looks
from
like
his lab
the
in
one
Mexico.
on the bar,
Right.
which made us all think he was just hanging out in Mexico and not on the Sicarian cruise there. But I know that there's a line in here that everybody loves. So, Tyler, you got
Oh.
another thought before I let
Well,
Blythe give us
I was
the
just
line?
gonna say that the fact that he's heading, everybody's thinking World War Hulk and all this and that.
Yeah.
He's still smart Hulk. Now,
Yep.
just what he would have to go back there and deal with if
Yeah.
that's what they're setting up. I don't think that'd be how they would do it.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
That's
I
a good
agree.
point.
I think maybe
Agreed.
this might be this. He's going to get some information that, you know what I mean? Like it's. I'm not there yet on the whole World War Hulk thing.
Yeah.
You guys are going to have to convince me a little more.
That's a good point, though. Blythe, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's why it kind of threw us all off, right? I don't know what to say. Like, I'm a huge Hulk fan. I've read Planet Hulk, World War Hulk, all of his story arcs, and I don't know how they're going to like weave this in to fit any of those storylines if that's what they're trying to do. We don't even know if he's going back to Sakaar. We know it's a Sicarian ship. He might not be
Right.
going back to Sakaar. He could be going anywhere. It's space. So I
Right.
don't. It's
Right.
hard to say even what he's doing. I know we kind of theorized that Scar would be in the ship, which is his son. Maybe his son took over Sakaar and he's going back to, but he took it over. And if anyone knows the storyline of Planet Hulk, Hulk gets to Sakaar and there's like this dictator that's like controlling the whole planet and he's messing with all the people and that. So maybe Scar kind of fits that, where he's taken over the
Mhm.
planet and now he is not a very good ruler, so he's going back to handle his son. Who knows?
Who knows?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
the fact that he has an office on that ship, like a lab, all the things, and the fact that he knew the ship when he saw it, recognized it immediately.
Yeah.
And then what we get in Ragnarok, where he's like, I've been the Hulk for 2 years. Like it really seemed like he had zero memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now he recognized maybe he's been going back and forth a lot. You know, so it really begs the question: what is his business? Like
Parental visitation.
Well, and I mean,
it's
the
his weekend.
sheer fact of, if we also think about if we think about what the ship is called specifically, he didn't call it a Sicarian ship. He called it a Sicarian courier ship.
Yeah.
The whole point of couriers is they ferry things back and forth to places.
Which, like, he had his gladiator helmet in, that room in Mexico and stuff. Yeah. He didn't bring that. We don't see him with that in Ragnarok. So
yeah, you might be onto something. Maybe he has been going back and forth this whole time, and
maybe
no one
he's
knows.
Still fighting. Maybe he's still fighting the gladiator matches because it, for some reason, it like makes him feel alive or something. Like it gets that Hulk kind of feeling that maybe he's struggling. Maybe he's struggling with balancing it, and he needs to get out aggression.
That would be. He said he has a compromise. Remember, he says he has a compromise with the Hulk, and they have a compromise. That would be an interesting way. It's like, hey, listen, let me be me. I'll let you be you. Let's go back. You fight, and then we come back, and that's a compromise.
And this turns out to be true again.
Very
interesting. Also came up with it first.
And the producer did come out and say that, not in any specific terms, really, but that he does still have business off-world, and this is a great way to let Marvel, if they really want to, pick up the storyline of what he's been up to off-world and put a World War Hulk title in Phase 6. So,
yeah. That's a good point. That's all really good points, you guys. So I didn't think of that stuff. That was a good catch.
And that
Very
line,
good catch.
what was that line, Blog?
What's that line that we
I was a different person back then, literally. And then she looks at the camera and laughs. I love it, man. That's the beauty of the show, and her being able to break the fourth wall is that we can have those moments now where they're like, different people play different characters. We realize that, and it's a movie universe. That was all. I loved it.
Yeah. I thought that was a great way of addressing the actor change without, it was very tongue in cheek, which works for the show because that's what this show is. And that leads into her calling Hollowell and accepting the job to represent Abomination, where he probably tells her to turn on the TV. And there's a lovely scene of where Abomination is no longer in the cell. He's been broken out. And this is the first time that has connected Shang-Chi to the newer universe stuff, too. Because...
not the first time.
Go ahead.
In Shang-Chi, when we see Wong open up the portal at the underground fight, you see the prison cell.
Yeah, but you don't know what that is until now.
It's still there. Throw me a bone here. It was the same
I'll
cell.
give it to you. I'll give it to you.
I see your point, though.
Yeah. So what makes this scene really interesting is we all know, because we know where he's been. Now, is Abomination not in there? So is this happening right now? Did Wong take him right now? So are they happening at the same time? I know we talked about it. Don't shake your head, Blaz. I'm going to let you talk about it in a minute. But I'm just positing it to the listeners. Is Shang-Chi happening at the same time? Or has Shang-Chi already happened and this is footage that is coming out now? What's going on? Blythe is going to just give me dirty looks if I don't let him talk. So tell us about it.
So when we had talked about this earlier, we had kind of talked about how is this going on at the same time as Shang-Chi, or is the footage just now coming out? But then we were like, well, why? How long? How long in between Shang-Chi and this is it happening? How long has people been sitting on that footage? And when we were talking before about how it's not a coincidence that Titania broke into the law office and or not the law office, she broke into the courtroom and that whole thing seemed to be set up. I think that this isn't coincidence either.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that this footage was footage that I'm going to mess up the name, GLK and H. Hopefully I got that right. I think this is footage that they had. And as soon as the whole plan is like, it's very much like super villainy plan, right? Like, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and it'll lead to this. Like, so they sent Titania, got the She-Hulk under their umbrella, offered her the job with Blonsky, and now they're doing this piece to see how she spins it because essentially she needs to make Blonsky seem like he is rehabilitated.
And this will also bring in Wong into the show. I mean, we knew he was coming because he's in the trailer, but this is how they will get him in because she's clearly going to have to ask, why did you break him out?
Well, that's been a big question since Shang-Chi, right? Is that why is he breaking? Why did he take Abomination out and put him into that whole Fight Club scenario?
Yeah, and the other thing that kind of pointed to us all that we knew that this show comes after Shang-Chi is because at the end credits scene of Shang-Chi, Bruce's arm is still in the sling. Yeah. And we know in this he's healed up just fine and good to go and on some Sicarian space cruiser going somewhere. Anyways.
Well,
Kevin, you got a thought?
I tend to think this is Wong's way of rehabbing. And I think that you have the Abomination is kind of using Wong to say, "Oh, look, I'm still good," and then you can spin that quite easily. Look, he was out in public and he decided to come back, and because he wants to work it out and he wants to clear his name, and so look, see, and I think Wong is being played here, though.
I don't know about that. I mean, maybe it's very possible.
And then the deal to get him free is, of course, to join the Thunderbolts. Is you can have your freedom, but you have to work for the government again.
Yeah, you got to join the Thunderbolts. Yeah. And one thing we didn't touch on, and I'll come back to that, is the way that Blonsky explained why he did what he did. It was pretty touching to me. I mean, now we know he's Abomination and he's a mess and everything, but it was a very interesting way of humanizing him by saying, well, I was told that this is what I had to do. This is why I did it. I was pumped through the super serum. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons I think in the course of the show, it'll be able to humanize him a little bit. He's not ever going to be a good guy. Let's be honest. He's not ever going to be a good guy, but this is what they're setting that up for.
But he was not told. He was told to not take the Hulk blood. He was told to take the super soldier when it wasn't enough. Yeah. He took it upon himself to become the Abomination.
Yeah.
And then he the streets.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's why he's never going to be a good guy.
Yeah. That's a detail that she's probably not going to have.
Yeah. She doesn't have that information.
She's not telling
back and rents that movie from the library.
Yeah, Jen doesn't have all that information. And if Liz is correct on the fact of G, L, K, and H, we all know that they're not going to be they're not going to be the upholders of the law, the good guy law firm she's working for. They're going to withhold that information from her anyways.
Yeah, they're definitely.
I mean, they're literally holding that. So, and one more thing I want to bring up before we close this bad boy out, ladies and germs, as Kevin brought this up in our groups, is that we're all sitting here waiting for Daredevil, and we're going to be excited when he comes. But because this show is so fun and it's so good, we don't miss him yet. So I thought that was a great way of putting it, Kevin, because as I was watching this episode, I didn't once think of, I wonder if Daredevil's showing up in this. We all know I love me some Daredevil. And for me not to go, where's Daredevil? Where's Daredevil? Nope,
yeah.
Didn't do it. So that's a show, guys. So let's do, let's not do grades. Let's wait until the end of the season and let's just enjoy what we're doing and close this bad boy out. That is our show, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you to the boys for joining me. As always, it's Blythe. and Kevin and Tyler, and we love to hear from you listeners. So please check us out on Facebook, check us out on Twitter, check us out on TikTok, all these places.
Did you say
check
gender?
us out on
What?
Oh,
Did you
that's
say
the
check
other.
us out on
That's the
Tinder?
other.
Do we have an
show.
iHeartBeat Tender?
Maybe She-Hulk does.
She-Hulk does. Why don't we?
She-Hulk does. Why don't we? But I will say, check us out on TikTok if you haven't checked us out on TikTok, because our man on the street, Kevin, Mr. Conspiracy Theory, has been putting out some interesting theories on there. So you can check those out. Usually get them before. So I think we're gonna start making that a thing on the Tickety Talkities.
We hear it's popular.
It's popular with
the kids
kiddos.
seem
All
to
the
take
kids
to
doing
it
it.
quite a bit.
So check us out on all that stuff. Check us out everywhere. We're everywhere. We're pathetic. We love it. We need affirmations. Talk to us. Anyway,
No shame.
and that's it. So remember, keep on geeking on, guys, and we'll see you for episode 3 of She-Hulk. And that's the show.
You have been listening to the latest episode of the iHeart Geek Show. Make sure you visit our website at www.iheartgeekshow.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you check us out on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep on geeking on to all of you geek rock stars.